it makes people realize is that the dollar's not that important. If nations like Russia and others are willing to risk giving up those reserves, it means that it's not the end of the world. Monday, April 10th, 2023, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today we're going to look at an interesting question. A lot of times I come up with subjects because I'm thinking about things, and I try to look at it in different ways. And the other day I realized that the Russian economy hasn't collapsed. Maybe it's not booming, but it's still ticking over. And my question was, if Russia can lose $300 billion in reserves, why couldn't other countries do so and still survive, right? And I think that's a very important question for us to look into. And why? Well, because it's going to affect Americans especially. And am I trying to defend Russia, the BRICS countries, China? No, that's not my purpose with any of my videos, to defend any nation, be it the US, China, the UK. My purpose is just to look at the facts and see how that could affect your bottom line financially, your savings. So yeah, that's something that made me think. So yes, as we all know, of course, when Russia started their what they call special military operation back in February of 2022, the West, well, threw loads of sanctions at Russia. They froze their foreign reserves, around 300 billion, as I said. They blocked them from SWIFT. They blocked Russian banks from dealing in the LBMA, London Bullion Market Association. They did everything to hurt the Russian economy. Initially, the ruble dropped massively, but then it recovered. And despite the fact that we're told in the West that the whole world is against Russia, it's not. We saw at the recent G20 in India that a lot of the other non-Western countries, they want to get on with things. They want to cooperate on trade, investments, and other things. And it's interesting that Macron, the president of France, has just come back from a state visit to China. And he said that Taiwan is a problem for the Chinese and the Taiwanese, and that France, or maybe even the EU, shouldn't get involved in that dispute. And it seems to be ratcheting up, saber rattling. I think there were some naval exercises yesterday around Taiwan. So I think even the EU now, as per France, they're starting to realize it's a losing strategy to try to sanction countries, to try to stop them from dealing financially, because they're going to go and form an alternative system. And that's what they're doing. That's what Russia, China, and the BRICS and other countries are doing. And the other thing that it does for the dollar, and this is where the American public comes in, even the public here in the UK, because we have a lot of dollar reserves. Our currency is basically backed by a lot of dollars. So what it will do for Americans especially is that there's going to be a lot less demand for dollars. And we know that that means less purchases of treasuries, higher interest rates. Yes, the Fed will probably go in there and start buying it, but that just means a weaker currency. The other thing it makes people realize is that the dollar's not that important if nations like Russia and others are willing to risk giving up those reserves. It means that it's not the end of the world. But one thing that they're doing that they know is important to have as a monetary asset is gold. And we've seen recently more gold buying from China. So as you see here, Krishan Gopal from the World Gold Council on Twitter, he reported on April 7th, data from the People's Bank of China shows an 18-ton increase in its official gold reserves for March. Now 5 consecutive months of buying, totally 120 tons. Total gold reserves amount to 2,068 tons. Doesn't sound like a lot, but there's speculation that the Chinese have 10 times that amount of the 2,068 tons. And I think these analysts are right about that. The other thing that's happening is individuals out there starting to buy a lot of gold. Krishan Gopal reported that major Korean banks are reporting higher gold bar sales as a result of the recent global financial market jitters. I think it's a lot to do with what's going on as well with the dollar, with the geopolitical situation. And we saw, last year, 2022, and these numbers are being updated still, was the biggest net gold buying by the non-Western central banks since records began. So basically about in 80 years. So I think it's a question that bears thinking about. Yes, if the Russian economy can survive without its dollar reserves, why can't others like China, Brazil, India, South Africa, and others that are trying to join the BRICS, like Saudi Arabia? I mean, Saudi Arabia doesn't have that many treasuries. I've just looked here. They've got 111 billion. And don't forget, these reserves are used for international trade. Yes, and international trade is important. And some people will say, well, how can they deal in commodities and other currencies? Because commodities are priced in dollars. Well, sure, they'll be able to work out a way to price their commodities and services in their own currencies. They could even barter, like we've seen. I think it was Myanmar and Iran actually exchange tea from Myanmar for oil from Iran, circumventing the dollar. So, and as you can see here, Brazil has a commodities exchange with commodities traded in the Brazilian real. China has the Shanghai Futures Exchange, where they don't just trade physical gold and silver, but also other commodities like oil in yuan. So I'm not trying to denigrate the dollar or anything. I'm just trying to warn the public, not just in the US, because a lot of people in other countries think the dollar is as good as gold, that it's always going to be there, and it will probably be there, but it just won't be as important, and it won't be as valuable. So I made a video the other day about how quickly the sterling reserves dropped. Sterling reserves as a percentage of world forex reserves. In 1948, it was 80% of the world's forex reserves. By the mid 50s, it was down to 30%. So it can happen very quickly. And I think it's very significant, this headline, this story about Macron coming back from China and saying Europe cannot follow the US into crises that aren't ours in Taiwan. So there you go. Maybe Mr. Macron realizes that Ukraine has been a huge failure, and so he should, because the situation, social, political, situation in France is not good. I think the protests there are huge, have been going on for a couple of weeks. So there you go. With that, let's quickly look at where the markets are this morning. I think the markets in London are shut, but the futures are open. The US is going to be trading normally. It's 20 past 8 a.m. London time. So we've got spot gold just below 2,000. We're at 1996, down just over $12. High's been 2015, the low 1988. Spot silver is trading at 24.80. That's down 18 cents or 0.75%. High's been 25.05 and the low 24.60. The Dow futures is down 50 points. The Nasdaq futures is down 60. The S&P future is down 14 points, just below 4,100. To the currencies, we got sterling unchanged, 124.22. The euro is up slightly at 109.10. The dollar is up slightly versus the yen, 132.35. And talking about the yen, I guess the Bank of Japan has a new governor, Mr. Ueda. He took over, I think, in the last 24 hours or so. I've noticed that the JGB market seems to be fairly calm. There's no challenge to that 0.5% yield on the 10-year yet, but I'm going to keep an eye on it for you guys. What else have we got? Yeah, the dollar is unchanged versus the yuan at 687.52. The Aussie dollar is unchanged as well, 66.72. The dollar is down versus the Canadian dollar, about 0.2% at 134.89. And the Kiwi dollar is down about 0.2 at 62.43. To the other commodities here, we've got platinum down $7, trading just above 1,000, around 1,005. We got WTI crude up 0.8% at 80.75. Brent is unchanged, really, trading around 85.00. And we'll quickly look at where the U.S. Treasury market is overnight. Okay, the 10-year yield is at 3.36. It's down 2 basis points. The 2-year is down 4 at 3.93. And I saw that on Friday, non-farm payroll came pretty much in line. It dropped from the previous number, so not much to report there for now. So there you go. With that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.